Hello and welcome to The Ravens, a One Tree Hill podcast. I'm Simon and I love One Tree Hill.
And I'm Dom, and I've seen 177 episodes of One Tree Hill.
And tonight, Dom, we have an incredibly special guest. I'm so excited to talk to someone that has this level of experience and being on this side of One Tree Hill in the behind the scenes creation process. We have a writer, a producer, someone that's gone on to be their own show creator. We're honored to be joined by Johnny Norris. Johnny, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the Ravens podcast.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, there's so much to get into. We obviously want to talk about your new show, Motorheads, but I was hoping we could kind of do your origin story, if you will, and sort of get to that as the crescendo. So could you kind of start by telling us a bit about how you got into the industry in general and then how you ended up in One Tree Hill?
Absolutely. I'll try to do the quick version of it because there is a long version of it that I won't do. But I've been writing since I was 7, 8 years old. I was a military kid and we moved all around the world. We lived in Germany, we lived in Spain, and I would always write these. I'd watch a movie and I'd write a little sequel, like I'd handwrite it and I'd give it to my parents. And while they're super supportive, writing's not a real career if you're in the military. And so they would always say, neat. And then it's just, we'd move on. And then I remember one time I was watching LA Law, the TV show, and I loved it. And I said to them, what if I was a lawyer? And they lit up. And that was it. I was going to be a lawyer. So from then on out, that was my track. I went to law school in Philadelphia at Villanova. And while I was there, I realized, the only reason I wanted to become a lawyer was because I liked TV and movies, and so they were very supportive. About a week before I graduated from law school, I called them and I said, "I'm gonna move out to LA. I'm gonna get in my car. I'm gonna drive out to LA." And there was a shock. They had no idea. But I didn't know anyone in LA. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a place to live. I literally got in my car the day after I graduated law school, and I drove across country with a TV in the back, and I found a motel in Hollywood, in Santa Monica, and I bought a book. This is all true. I bought a book, How to Make It in Hollywood. Like I had no idea how to make it in Hollywood, and it said that you needed a year's agency experience working in a mailroom at one of the big agencies, and so I applied to a bunch of agencies, and I got into a mailroom at APA, and all that's a long-winded way of saying that was me trying to make it, not knowing what to do. And what happened from there was, I sublet a room for a summer, and there was a guy that was working in the editing room, the post-production of the NBC show Providence. I don't know if you know of that show, but it was a hit. It was called Providence. It was Melina Canacaredes. And I got into the writer's room as the writer's PA. And I got to get lunches for an incredibly talented group of writers. Mike Kelly was in there. He went on to create Revenge. Everyone in that room went on to create something. And the showrunner was Ann Hamilton. And once that show got canceled, she got hired as the show. A lot of people don't know this. She got hired as the showrunner of One Tree Hill. It was called Ravens, and she decided to bring me and another assistant at the time. We were assistants, Terry Coley, over to Ravens, and we were brought into the writers' room, and the show got retitled One Tree Hill, and it just kind of exploded from there. That's how I got my foot in the door into that world. It was that book, How to Make It in Hollywood, said to give yourself 5 years. It was getting right up into that, like trying so hard. I jumped over working for a casting director, working for a manager, not working. Hollywood is just very hard. And so, once I got into the writer's room at One Tree Hill, and Mike Kelly was also brought over there. He was on, Providence, and then he went on to the OC, and then he created Revenge and became a big time writer. But that's how I got into my time at One Tree Hill, which, by the way, I have a million stories about those early days if you'd like to hear any of them.
How about we'd like to hear every single one?
Yeah.
We're going to need about another 200 hours of your time. But
Well,
wait, hang on.
Go.
that was a great answer. Thank you. You should have your own podcast talking about these things. Would be the first people to subscribe. But the so are you saying that two questions?
Yes,
Were
sure.
you and Dom, and I promise I'll let you speak. But the I get so excited
One day.
one day. I get so excited I have to ask. But so are you saying that you was basically in the writer's room from the beginning of One Tree Hill?
Day one.
That's crazy. I mean, I think I didn't realize on IMDb it's a bit confusing sometimes. Maybe I'm simple, but
Well, you see on IMDb the first episode I wrote, which was in season two, but I was in the writer's room as the writer's assistant slash script coordinator on day one. And so I got to be in there for all of it. So I was there for from day one of the writer's room, which was I think 22 years ago this month, the beginning of June, which is crazy. And I was there for 8 years. I left after season eight to pursue another job. One thing, and I don't want to get ahead of it because there's so much that happened at the beginning, but what a lot of people don't know is almost every year we wrote a series finale. We didn't know that we were getting another season ever. The only year that we felt like a hit was after season two. We were pretty sure we were getting a season three, but after that, when Lucas and Peyton drive off in the car, that was a series finale. The show was over. We all said our goodbyes. We had everybody cried, and then we find out, oh, they want more, and then the next year, series finale. The next year, series finale, and so after season eight, it was for sure for me. It was for sure a series finale, and I remember getting really emotional. And I said my goodbyes. I kind of made peace with it. I know I'm jumping over so much. I'm going to the end of my time at One Tree Hill, but and then I went in, took another job, and then I was told that they were coming back, and I it was a soul searching night, and I decided to move on. And so I wasn't there for season nine. I know you're watching that now, but I wasn't there. But from day one until the end of season eight, I was a part of every single episode broken.
that's so crazy. I'd also and I don't like completely respectfully, you don't look old enough to have done this 22 years ago.
Appreciate
Like
that. No, I appreciate that. Uh, but I
that's
am.
that's just a statement, compliment, you know. But
Yeah.
and then sorry, the other question, and I promised Dom it'll be my last one for a minute, is that how come I'm sorry, I've forgotten the lady's name you said. How come she didn't remain as the showrunner? Like how come it became Mark Schwann?
Mark, what happens when you create a show and you've never done TV? They pair you with someone, and that happens a lot. And he had only done movies. He had done a movie called The Perfect Score, and another movie that hadn't come out yet. With like Scarlett Johansson and Chris Evans and some other people, and he had never done it, and I think he wanted. I mean, he wanted the show, and she came in, and I think that I don't know. That's a question you'd have to ask Anne, but I think she left after episode five or six of season one, and they elevated Mark Perry, who was a at the time a consulting producer. They elevated him to kind of a showrunner, co-showrunner with Mark. And I have a lot of great things to say about Mark Perry too, because when I want to kind of go in order a little bit of how he was with me on my first script, and the learning curve of writing an episode, the first one you ever write, and what he was able to do with me. But I'll save that till I get to that writing the episode thing, if you want.
I'm so excited for all of it. Go on, Dom.
Well, I was going to say when you're first in the writer's room
Mhm.
on that first day of One Tree Hill, and you're kind of assisting a little bit, maybe not so involved in the deeper parts of writing episodes. Are you listening and kind of going, I'll do it this way. This would be what I would do, and kind of making your own changes in your head.
Absolutely. I think everyone in that room does that. I mean, I was lucky that I was in the writer's room, and even though I was getting lunches, you only get lunches one time a day. So for the rest of the day at Providence, this is when I was on Providence on NBC. I was sitting in that writer's room, and you're listening to just really smart people and why they're doing, and everything about being a writer is trial and error. I always say today, all the way. I think even when I pitched Motorheads, I said, I've done so many episodes of television. I've been a part of in the writers' room of 399 as of today, and what I learned the most is what doesn't work. You try a lot of things and they work, great, but it really helps you as a writer to see what doesn't work. Something that you maybe tried on this show once, and then by season seven, a new writer comes in and says, "Hey, we should do this," and we're like, "We tried it." Season two, like
Mhm.
episode three, it doesn't work. I'm telling you, it doesn't work. And then you go to another show and someone pitches something, and you're like, "No, it doesn't work." So that yes, I mean, when I got into the writers' room at One Tree Hill, I was the assistant, so I was taking notes. So I was really obviously involved in and listening to everything they said. But yeah, you kind of like, like you do, and with the other assistants, and they would all, all the other assistants on that show have gone on to become executive producers on shows. And we talk about it to this day. I think I was having drinks with one of them the other night, and it's just like, in the early days, you're like, I don't know, but I'm really, I mean, even though I didn't write any. I'm really proud of that, of that show, and especially those first seasons. Even when I didn't write in the first season, they listen to you. They take your ideas, and if you have a good idea, but you have to be careful, and you have to really, hold your ideas until you have a winner, because the last thing you want to do before you're on staff and you're an assistant is talk a lot. And that isn't something that I say to assistants like, "Hey, don't talk." It's just you don't want, you have to look at One Tree Hill at the time. I feel like we had 10 to 12 writers. Nowadays you have four. And so back then you have so many writers on staff. The last thing you want to do is be the loudest voice as an assistant that wants to get on that staff. So unless you have a great idea. So
I always imagine writers' rooms like when they were 10 to 12 people just being chaotic. Like, this is the idea, I've got this, I've got that. Let's do this line, let's throw that in there. What about this
yeah.
thing? What about that theme? All the things that don't work, throw that out the door. And then to cut it down to four must just feel like, oh, it's a little bit more zen.
Well, I mean, there's zen, but then there's also like, hey, let's pick up the energy a little bit. It's when you have that big room, it is chaotic. Sometimes you break up the room. Like, you eight go talk about this, you eight go talk about this. You have to remember also there's a writer off writing an outline, there's a writer off writing a script, so the room starts to get smaller. When you only have four, all of a sudden sometimes you have one or two people in a room, and if you get someone on a low energy day, it's not what it was. I just remember those days. I mean, it was a dysfunctional family that it was, everybody, we were all so close. We so close that you yelled at each other. The practical jokes were off the charts, which I have some of those to tell you about. It's insane how many that were played on me. But yeah, it's I don't know. I miss those days. Hollywood doesn't do it anymore. There's just not as many. There's more shows, but there's not as many slots on shows, and I don't know. It's that's why if you look, I'd write 2 episodes a year, and in 10 episodes of Motorheads, I wrote six. So and I created the show, but it's back in those days. You were lucky to get two, and then the rest of the year you were just helping other people break their episodes. So
And and so, just for clarity, because our understanding is that obviously we know the show was shot in Wilmington, where Dom and I went out earlier this year. Loved it, and and
right.
then our understanding is that the writing was happening in LA at Warner Brothers. Is that right? So all the writing is there. So did you
Yeah.
get to go out to Wilmington to like watch any of the filming, or was it a completely separate worlds?
No, yeah, I mean, more so as the seasons went on in the early days. We just got, yeah, we were on the main Warner Brothers lot in a little trailer, and then they moved us to the Warner Ranch, which no longer exists, which was down the street, and it was, they filmed the Christmas Vacation house was there, and the Lethal Weapon house was there. But yeah, we got to go for like 2 days at a time. A shoot is 8 days. I think that was either 7 or 8 days. Motorheads is 8 day shoots, but that might have been seven. But we got to go occasionally, and then as we got into the later seasons, we got to stay for a little longer. I wrote the most fun I had on set ever was I wrote an episode called Not Afraid, which was the Halloween episode. Sophia Bush directed it, and we got to do the trick or treating and the all of that zombie fun stuff at the beginning. And I
Mm.
think I was out for all of that one, but not as much as you would like to be. Like everything that shoots in LA, you're on set every day. But no, didn't get to go out as much. But I did. I agree with you. I love Wilmington so much that was the first place I wanted to shoot Motorheads, and we shoot it in Toronto. So,
Bro, we've got so much to say on Motorheads as
oh
well.
yeah, we'll get to that.
Dom and I have both watched it. Dom's seen all of it. I've seen the first like four episodes. I'm still going. I have very small children. I have to watch it in like 10-minute increments. Um, but yeah, so good, and we've got so much to say about that and questions about that. But okay, can I ask? So in season one,
Yeah,
before you sort of got onto like having more of an input, let's say, into the scripts, is there
yeah.
some stuff in season one that you can point to and are like, yeah, that was me, like I managed to get that in there, like any story plot points or anything?
I don't. I mean, the answer is yes. It's so long ago that I can't remember every little story. Like I always say to writers on shows I'm on that when you're in a room, everyone's throwing ideas out there, and nobody is tallying whose idea that was and whose idea that was. So, I absolutely have a lot of that. I can take credit for a major moment on the show. Once Lucas and Peyton broke up, they were never supposed to be together again, right? And that was and I loved the pilot so much, and I always remembered that moment at the end of the pilot when Lucas walks into the gym and he's going to join the team, and Peyton is over there as a cheerleader, and she stands up and looks at him. And I always felt like, oh, that's so endgame. Like that has to be endgame. And then we got into Lucas and Brooke, and people love that. And at the time, there wasn't social media; it was message boards. And so there were message boards, but they were huge. I mean, we would have millions of posts, millions. And there was a Brucus and a Leighton, and there was 2 pages that had millions of posts, and it was a vicious back and forth. And I remember it was towards the end of one of the seasons, I pitched, you know what? I think that, and Lucas was with Brooke. I think that Peyton should go to Brooke and say, I don't know how to tell you this. You're my best friend, but I still love him and I want him back. And I said, what we would get out of that is a full year of those two not being friends, which is just gold. It's not that you don't want them to be friends, it's you want them to be friends again. And the
Hmm.
audience wants to want something. Once you give them what they want, they're going to find something else to want, and it might be on another show. And
Hmm.
so I remember getting a swift no to that. Not going to happen. And I fought for it. I pushed and I said, and I brought up that opening scene, that final scene in the pilot, and I said, I just feel like that's where it needs to end, and I feel like this is where it could start, and it could lead to all this drama and friction. And I don't know how you guys felt about that them breaking up as friends and them getting back together, but that was one of the kind of the I think a moment that gave us a little more longevity too, in my opinion.
Think
So
for myself as a first time watcher, I looked at those two, and even in the difficult times, and going, they're destined to be together.
yeah,
It just should happen, which is a credit to the writing and the kind of um, foresight that you had on that,
yeah,
because it's absolutely what people watching it are feeling is
yeah,
like that should be the end game, exactly like you said. So yeah,
yeah.
it's amazing that you could see that kind of even in that tight in that room, right
Yeah, I
in
mean,
the
I
end.
feel like
Yeah.
I was able, and everyone there was. I mean, everyone was a fan of the show, but sometimes when you get bogged down in these just, I mean, 22 episode seasons are very hard. And when you get to episode 17, 18, 19, you're just crawling to the finish line. You know what the finale is going to be. You come up with the finale at the beginning of the year. You know how you're ending it. You just don't know how you're getting there. And so, it's kind of hard to stay passionate always. And we had a pretty passionate writing staff. And I remember like the fact that we were fans of the show, you could get inside the characters and be like, I really want them to be together. I really want them to be together. I don't like him, but I want to like him. So how can we make the audience like him? Things like that. So that's one. But yeah, I mean, as far as season one, I know that's super long-winded, but I'm sure there were ideas that, I pitched out and someone goes, "Oh, good idea," or a funny line or something like that, and it's like, and it ends up in there, and you're really proud, and you call your parents and say, "Hey, I didn't write tonight's episode, but there's a joke in there that is really funny." And that was me. So those were fun days.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So season one, we put that in the books. We put it in a DVD box set on my shelf, if anything.
Yeah.
That's over there. Now we get into season two. So how did that transition happen of, okay, John, we're gonna put you on staff, or did you have to like interview for it, or do they just know, or how did that happen?
No, I mean whenever writers leave, there's openings and there's chances to write, and a lot of times, you go outside of the office, but I think the best shows hire from within. They hire their assistants and they elevate them and they know the show and they stick with the show and there's a loyalty there. And that's how it happened. I mean, yes, you have to give everyone, you write something of your own on the side. I think I wrote a play, a one act play, and I sent it to some of the writers, and it made its way up to Mark and Mark. It was Mark Perry and Mark Schwann, and they liked it. And I got to write episode 218, which was the Lonesome Road. Funny story about that. And this is, if you didn't watch it, I don't know if you watched it back then, Dom. I know you didn't, but there was always a gimmick trying to get people to watch the show. And that episode, if you don't remember it, was Haley was off on the road, and Nathan went to see her sister at like
Oh,
some dive bar, where she
yes.
dances on the bar. And in that episode, we filmed two versions. One was those two making out, kissing, and one was her trying to kiss him, and he says no. And in the middle of the episode, the audience had to vote on did they want him to kiss Taylor, and it was. I mean, those days are so long gone. It was such a gimmick. It was overwhelming. We heard it was like 97% no kiss. Who knows, if that was legit, but we filmed both versions. I got to see both versions, but we only aired the one.
If,
So
if if the vote had been different, would they have aired it differently?
that's what they say, but I mean, I think that would have been a bad, bad, bad move. I mean, the audience did not want to see that. We didn't want to see it. We saw it in the cut. We got to see the one that never aired. But the audience was really, really rabid for Nathan and Haley, um, almost to a point that it it made us a little gun shy in the writers' room. Like we didn't want to. We were worried always about like disrupting, and that's when you get into a little trouble of. It's called, some people say fan service, where you're trying to appease the fan base instead of telling the story that needs to be told. And I think at times with those two, I mean, we got threats if they were in an argument. I mean, it was wild. I mean, it was kind of scary. So we kind of left the drama to the Lucas Brooke Peyton stuff, and I don't know if you really noticed. I mean, people loved it, but there was a stretch there for Nathan and Haley where they didn't have a lot of drama between each other after that. There was great stuff, later on with obviously with the basketball and him getting hurt and everything, but for a little while, his drama was more with his dad and with Lucas and things like that. So I did want to say, I don't want to put, I know we put season one to bed, but I did want to point out something that I don't know if a lot of people outside of the room know a couple things about our pre-launch before we aired. Do you mind if I tell that real quick?
You can tell anything you want. We're
Yeah.
hungry for it.
So in season one, we were only going to be a mid-season replacement, which means we did the writers' room, we started shooting, but we weren't going to air until sometime in the new year. And the big like tentpole TV show that they were going to put. It was the WB at the time. They were going to put on it was called Fearless. It was a Jerry Bruckheimer show about kids that don't have the fear gene or something. And we got a call 1 week out, and it said, "There's good news and bad news. The good news is you guys are airing in a week, and this is in the fall. The bad news is there's no promotion because all the promotion was going to happen over the holidays." And so we aired to the lowest ratings in the history of the WB. And we were dead on arrival. Like we were dead. I mean, it would have been so easy to cancel us. Our ratings were lower than repeats of their hits. And they called, and it was, I didn't get the call, but the bosses got the call, and it wasn't a good call. It was, we're gonna continue making this the rest of the season. We know there wasn't promotion. We're gonna see how the promotion works out over the holidays. And over the holidays, we had this big campaign called "Oh, What a Tangled Web," and it was all the actors on posters, all twisted up and looking good. And we started rising, and it's I just remember those days. I just have a quick little anecdote about that time that I was ready to leave Hollywood. This was my last job before I moved back to Philadelphia and became a lawyer. I was done. I'd done all of these jobs. I'd work in a mailroom. I'd worked in all of these shows, and then Providence got canceled, and I came here, and I had heard we were getting canceled, and we were in a trailer, and we didn't have a TV. And the 140 building at Warner Brothers, it had a lobby with a big TV. And we heard that our cast was going to be on TRL, Total Request Live on MTV. And we all walked up the hill, and we asked the guy in behind the desk if we could turn it to MTV. And when we turned it on, all of Times Square was completely full of fans screaming and crying. And I remember calling my parents after and saying, I think this is going to be a hit. And I was right. But that was one of my early days of like when I knew One Tree Hill like hit some chord with the audience, and I was really excited about that. But anyway, that's season one. That's it.
Well, and then 22 years later, you found yourself on the biggest One Tree Hill podcast in the universe. So now you've
Love it.
really made it,
I love it.
second biggest.
I love it.
Go on, Dom.
I was gonna. Is there anything? Is there any like approaches and like the evolution of kind of writing that you've seen come through that you kind of go, we did that on One Tree Hill years ago, and all of those kind of no points that were like doesn't work, doesn't work, doesn't work. Do any of them evolve into okay, that works now? That's something we can use, or does it all depend on the kind of theme of the show, style, kind of what's going on?
I mean, I think it depends on the theme of the show. I think a lot of those shows are gone now of that day. I mean, it's these shows that we know connect. Like I watched Dawson's Creek before I went to One Tree Hill, and I remember when we came out, everyone compared us to Dawson's Creek, but it was a different show, but it was still in the same world. And then there was the OC and Veronica Mars. Veronica Mars is fantastic, by the way, and I think that. I mean, these days you don't see a lot of those shows at all. If you see a high school show, and not throwing shade at all, but they're a lot heavier, drug use and things like that. But as far as like those things that don't work, I haven't really seen them work. I don't want to point them out because people have tried, and I feel like I'd be bad mouthing a show here or there, but I haven't seen them work, and I think that those are just lessons learned along the way. But I think that you know uh, I mean I just learned so much from my experience on that show, just the writing process. Oh, just real quick, sorry. The I think I told you about my first episode, The Lonesome Road. The experience of it was I turned in the script, and our scripts were about 46, 45 pages, and I turned in a 59-page script because I thought, oh well, I don't know what to cut. It's this dialogue is great, and I was wrong. I turned it in, and I walked in the next day, and everyone looked at their feet, and I'm like, oh no, oh no. And it's the first one I ever wrote, and my stomach sank, my heart dropped, and I'm like, oh my God, no one liked it. And it wasn't that it wasn't any good. It was just overwritten. And so that's on a lot of shows what happens is the bosses take it and they rewrite it. And you never see it again, and then you don't learn anything, and you don't know what you did. You don't really know what you did wrong. Mark Perry, he called me into his office, and he went through page for page with me. And he said, "This scene right here, it's really good up until here. That's the end of your scene. But then you go another page, and they start talking about this. Cut all that." And then he'd get to a scene. This isn't good. This isn't good. But then what really stuck with me is he found some scenes, and he's like, "This is really fun. Like this is fun banter. This is you. This is what you should do." And in my career, I'm a bantery writer. I like writing bantery dialogue. I like callbacks. I like all of that. And I've never told him that. Maybe I'll write him an email after I get off this podcast. But he did give me a crash course in writing that really shaped my entire career, I
Do
think.
do you find that you're doing the opposite now? Like you're sitting with, the new generation of writers, or at least people that are a bit right behind.
Absolutely. I said that long ago that I was always going to do that. I don't want to take a script from someone and just rewrite it. I want to walk through it and say, this is where you can do this. He also said something to me of like, once you're done, um, go decorate the Christmas tree a little bit. Like get in there and every scene, even if it's a good scene, it can be better. And it could like this waiter in this scene that just takes their order. Is he angry? Is he funny? Is he having a bad day? Is he having a good day? Is he annoying? And you don't think about some of those things when you're just trying to get a script done. But those are the things that I think make you not make, but help the audience enjoy it, because the whole purpose of watching a show is to enjoy it. It's not to get information. And I think some shows there's too much information thrown at you. So that's my opinion, though.
Great answers, loving all of it. So I'm the biggest fan of our podcast when we have, when we get to hear these things. I'm just hearing it as a fan. But we're in season 2. There's this tone shift that we're sort of going away from basketball for a season. It's the off season, and we'd sort of been told from our contacts and podcast guests now that was kind of a to try and widen the audience, maybe, or to target the demographic of maybe bringing the female audience in, because perhaps it was pitched with the basketball it maybe being towards more the male audience, or so on so on. How did you find that tone shift, and were you given sort of direction for that in the writers room, that hey, we're gonna lean off of basketball for a bit?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I was in the writer's room, so I would have heard this. I don't know that there was this effort to like get away from it because we needed more of girls and less boys or whatever, because I think that our audience in season 1 was 85% girls. I think that we had
Okay.
tons of girls. So I don't think that we ever had an issue finding girls. I think that one, it was the season 1 was always going to be the first half of school. Season 2 was going to be the second. Season 3 was going to be the first half of the next one. Season 4 was going to be the second half. That was always the plan. And the truth is basketball is not an all-round sport. So I'm not trying to say anyone that said that isn't right. I'm just saying, like, if you watch Friday Night Lights, a couple of those years they didn't have football because football's a fall sport. And so they did like spring. So I think we did like spring games and stuff sometimes. Also, you know, shooting basketball was a pain in the ass. I mean, it was, I don't know if you can see it. I mean, the days have changed. Now you use CGI, but have you looked at the fans? Have you looked at them closely in the at those basketball games? It's all dummies. And so we dressed like crash test dummies and put like hats on them. And if you pause it and zoom in, like it's just rows and rows of that. And it was I mean, because it gets expensive to do a big fan base. I mean, obviously that's not true of the pilot. Pilots cost more. But if you zoom in on those, in fact, if you just do a Google search of that, you can find people that did screen caps, and it's pretty creepy looking. But I don't know. I don't remember ever saying, "Hey, we need more girls." I think that was always what we had. But yeah, there was definitely a tonal shift. I think that it was just trying to lean into the drama and the soap and all that. As you know, as we go further, we have dogs eating hearts, but and I was there for that. So, but yeah, I mean, I personally, unless I'm wrong, and maybe someone in the writers' room will tell me I was wrong. I think it's just because season two we weren't in basketball season.
No, that's great. That's great to know. So, record has been set straight here on the Ravens podcast, as always, the source of truth of One Tree Hill. Love it. Okay, so coming out of season two to go into season three, unless there's other bits to talk about with season two. Uh,
Um, just this is just one little nugget. It doesn't matter because people like the episode, but the episode in season two that I wrote called Brave New World, and it's when Lucas goes on a road trip with Peyton to see her mom, and then Faith, the basketball girl's there.
oh
That
yeah.
episode was not a great experience for me, only because it was my second one ever, and you usually get 2 weeks to write a script, and that episode was completely different when we broke it in the room. And we had signed the actress that plays Faith. She's great, but we had signed her for like an arc, and at the beginning of the season, and she was going to be in later in the season. And so I went off to write the script, and I spent a week and a half and I was feeling really good about it. And there was a really great Lucas Brooke storyline where they have a big kiss and everything. And I got called into the writer's room and they said, so Warner Brothers said we have to use Faith in this episode. She has to be used because she has something else. We have to use her. So the room just broke a new storyline for you, and they gave me 2 days to do this storyline with like Brooke and little girls making like the sweatshop episode where
Hmm.
they were all making her clothes for her. And I just didn't love that. It's one of the few. I mean, I wrote a lot of episodes that I love. That's just not one of the ones that it was the best experience. Fans really love it. All the stuff with Peyton and her mom was the same, so that stayed the same. But as far as that experience, I don't know. That was a little. I don't even know if that's interesting, but that was my experience on that episode.
Can I just ask a very quick question about episode titles?
Mhm.
Who who picks them? Do you pick them?
We do. They just have to be song titles.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're all song titles, and you try to come up with one like the Halloween episode. I did Not Afraid. You try to do something that a Lonesome Road was Nathan alone on a road trip, and he goes and finds Taylor. The I wrote Brooke and Julian's wedding, and that was called The Other Half of Me. And there's a thing in it where he has a half of something that he gives to little Jamie. I don't know if you guys have seen that recently. That had happened to me in real life. I had when I was young, I was at like a carnival and a girl and I broke a thing in half. And I always planned on like giving that half to someone. And so that I tried to put something personal in all the episodes I wrote, and that was that one. So I was just lucky that The Other Half of Me was a song title. So
I love that. I don't know if you can just about see sort of here where my finger is I got given when we were in Wilmington from someone that was a background performer at Brooke and Julian's wedding. That's their wedding invitation. And
oh,
it's which is great. It's a great little prop.
that's
And it's all
great.
done very sincerely. Like all of the detail is very like all of the details of the order of the wedding service and everything. And then it gets to the date and it says it's the date is in like the 18th of Neverember or something. You're like a made up. It's like it's so close to everything being real. But sorry, to go back to the episode where you're saying with Faith, they're so interesting you say that because we picked up on that on the podcast of, oh, this is a great character. What's going to happen here? And then nothing ever happens, like because she doesn't continue on in the show. So it was there, but You had
she got
written,
something else. I mean, it
right?
happens all the time. I can use West Wing as an example. I had nothing to do with that show, but there's a character, Ainsley Hayes, Emily Proctor, who went on to CSI Miami or one of those shows. And she was one of the best characters on that show. And Aaron Sorkin to this day says his biggest regret on that show was not locking her down because she did
Mm,
like three great episodes and then got a series regular job somewhere else. And yeah, that girl was great. She's great. She's gone on to be in a bunch of things. Like she's a really accomplished actress now. But we she got something else, and they because they had already paid her for or were paying her for a certain amount, they said we have to use her in this episode. Yeah, we were setting up her coming to town.
yeah.
But that happens all the time. I mean, there's a lot of things that you set up that you lose actors and it's a bummer. But yeah,
And just to throw in for season two, so um, season two is my favorite finale of all of the finales with Dan. You know, this is for what you've done, and like the dealership's burning, and
Mhm.
the Veils song comes on, and it's so good. I love that so much. Do you have any memories of like that as a finale?
I just remember we spent a lot more time on those finales always. I mean, yeah, I mean, I remember it being fantastic. I mean, we had some big finales. I mean, we had the limo going off off of the bridge. I have a funny story about that too. But yeah, it's just I just remember just it's we would get to those finales and we would spend days and days and days just trying to really lock it down. And but as far as individual things, I just remember it being great. I remember always watching those. These are back in the days of like still there were some VHSs, and we would all gather in the writers' room. I do remember watching that. I mean, we obviously watched it months before everyone else, and it was just that was a special one. I mean, those first two, three seasons. I mean, I love it all. I mean, I'm also a huge fan of the show. But I go back and I'll watch. I rewatched the pilot maybe a few months ago, and those first few seasons just they were really special, I thought. So, by the way, you talked about props. I have a prop. I mean, because you seem to be so excited about this stuff. I wrote a yearbook episode. I don't even remember which one it was, but it was a yearbook episode. It's like mouth and whatever, but they gave me the yearbook. I have it. I'd be happy to give it to you if you want it.
You've just hit so many bells for
Yeah.
Simon there.
It's sitting in a closet in my office in the bedroom, and I don't think I've opened it or looked at it in 15 years.
I
He's gone into excitement overload.
Yeah.
I think you're my best friend now.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dom, you've been demoted.
I
Johnny,
know.
new
It's
best friend. Yeah, leave
Uh,
the Zoom, please, Dom.
yeah.
That I mean,
Just send me your info after, and I'll send it out.
I mean, I'm red. I don't know if you can see it. That I love that. Thank you so much. That's so kind. I love props so much. I like some of these things behind are some of the jerseys from the Mighty Ducks movies, which is like really special to me.
Mhm.
I've been lucky to get some stuff like we've got. Are you interested in this stuff, or we do want to skip move on? I don't want
Me?
to waste your time.
Me?
Yeah,
I'm going to show you real quick. Hold on for 1 sec. I know I'm live there, but
I'm interested in it, but everything gets sent to Simon. So
I'm
is he
sorry.
hoards? He
this is from
hoards.
this is from my show. But this is to show you how into props I am. I have this sitting under my TV. This is the stick shift in Motorheads. So
Yeah.
there's only one, and it was given to me. And if you come into my house, it's literally staring at you, and everybody's like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Well, just watch the show." But I love props. I love
I
them.
love that. All right, let me show you this one from the show. This is our this is the big one. Is this is this is Dan's
Oh,
Ravens jacket from the episode. It's in season two. We refer to it as the topsy turvy episode, but it's the episode when Nathan's in the coma and then he imagines what it would have been like if he was Lucas. And
Yeah,
when we had Paul on, he said he had this jacket still, and
I
and
love it.
yeah, it was amazing. Well, he was going to auction it for charity. And I was like, well, we can do that, but the auction is I will be the one person bidding. Um, And then the one other thing that we got is you know how they well you know because you probably have these things, but they have the cast and crew gifts at the end of each
Yeah,
season.
I have them all.
Oh, you're so lucky.
Yeah.
We got this one, the Deb's Den hoodie.
Yeah.
I managed to get this just off of eBay. It's in a size small, and I'm like 6'2", so I was never going to fit me. But we've been getting it signed at the conventions as our kind of like souvenir piece. But I
Love
love
it.
this because it's like a proper Nike hoodie. So cool.
It was all Nike. I mean, I have maybe six or seven coats, jackets. I have hoodies. I have the Keith's Auto Shop hoodie. I have Deb's Den, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I feel bad. I have stuff. We have bags, One Tree Hill, like duffel bags, gym bags. I'll add to the yearbook. I'll send you a couple other things.
Oh my God. How can I ask how tall you are?
6'1".
Oh, so we're probably about the same. Probably about the
Yeah.
same
Winding you up
size.
and everything, John.
Yeah. Do you have a Keith Scott auto hoodie?
No.
That's the one that Lucas is wearing in the pilot.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I have that. I have that. I'll send you mine. You can have mine. I don't wear it, so I mean, I have a lot of keepsakes from the time. So
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
I'll get you that.
Can I send you something? What can I send you? I tell you what I can do. I can do you a swap, right? Because we have our own like our own like podcast hoodies that we do on Adidas. So
Mhm.
I'll send you one of ours as like a replacement.
Love it. I'll take it. I'll
Awesome.
take it.
I love this.
Yeah,
This
I
is
think that we had some deal with Adidas. I mean, not with Nike because everything every year was Nike. But I mean, we got like I said, I have every version of coat. I have heavy coat. I have thin coat, windbreaker. And it was just everything. It'll say like One Tree Hill season whatever. I mean, it's just so much stuff. Haven't worn any of it in a long time, so it's just in there.
I mean, it's hard for me. I've got a bit of a head rush going now. But the okay, so wait. We're in season 3 now, and
Mhm.
a lot of the fans. So we have a lot of our listeners come on our podcast as like guest hosts with us, and
Mhm.
pretty much it's pretty unanimous that season 3 is the most beloved season in the fandom. Uh, how did it feel? Was it different in the writers' room for season 3? Was there something a bit more magical about it, or like I don't know what happened there?
I mean, and maybe this made a difference, but season three was our biggest hit year. We were a big hit that year. So when I don't know what the exact ratings were, but when we came out in the pilot came out, I mean, like I said, we were the lowest rated show ever on the WB, and I want to say it was under 1 million viewers or whatever. I mean, there was another show that was out at the time that was a very popular YA show, and we heard they called us One Share Hill, which we only got one share. And That was awesome to hear. But then when we got to, and this was a big deal for a YA show on the WB. When we got to season three, we premiered to like 3.5 million viewers, which was almost quadruple what our pilot premiere was. And I think the room felt that. The writers' room felt that energy of look at we're on a hit show and everybody loves the show and by the time you get to like if you set everything up properly in the early seasons everybody the actors have all found their characters fully and they they that matters. I mean it's everybody sort of gets into who they are and then same thing with the writing staff. I mean, by the time we got to season three, a lot of us had been there for a while, and then you know how to write Brooke, you know how to write Lucas. People are the characters are sounding the way that they need to sound, and it's not just you know everybody sounds the same. Not that Mark would have let everybody sound the same, but it's I that's the only thing I can think of. I mean, I think creatively it was a good year. I remember we had a really big writing staff that year. I remember we came in and we were a big hit, and they threw at us like four more writers. We might have had 15, 16 writers that year. How many episodes did I write that year? I think I wrote I don't know. That was the year that I wrote the Brave New World. I only got one episode because we had so many writers. And so that's all I can think of. I remember it being a great year. I personally love season one. I know, I mean, fans love season three. Great. I think we were, by then we had there was a lot of like, soapy drama and stuff, but season one just felt so grounded and so like small town, and it was about the basketball team and who likes who and love triangles, and I don't know, I that just is a even though I didn't write an episode that season, I was just there for all of the talking about every episode, and it was just, I don't know, there was something really special about it to me.
Season one's my favorite as well, actually. The first eight episodes, like
Yeah.
specifically, love it so much. But I mean, we can't talk about season three without talking about 315 and 316. And we've been fortunate on our podcast to have Colin, Paul, and Craig all on and sort of talking about, their involvement in those momentous, haunting, uh, just conversation provoking, all the rest of it of those episodes. I mean, how did you feel being involved in something that one is like such a shift from a standard One Tree Hill episode, also tackling a topic that is so sadly prevalent, but also must be very difficult to walk the tightrope of ensuring you're doing justice to such a serious thing, as well as, sort of moving the pendulum of all the characters along.
It was really special. It was really scary. I mean, I think you nailed it perfectly in your question about like balancing, and it needed to be done right. We didn't want to be the soapy teen show that does the soapy version of it. So it didn't feel like the show. Little moments of them together here and there felt like the show, but it felt like a different show. But I remember the room being pretty somber. It was so different. I mean, when you're breaking all the other episodes, there's so many joke pitches. We did not jumping ahead, but the dog eating a heart. The Ringer did an article on the oral history of a dog eating a heart, and I'm in there, and a bunch of people are in there. If you haven't read it, it's great. But I talk about in there that it's a jokey room. We were not joking around on that episode. There was no points of like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if at all? And so because of that, it felt straight drama. It felt important. But there was nobody at any, and I do remember, and I know you said you had Greg on. Greg's great. But I do remember Wilmington being worried about it before they got the script. And I remember them calling in, not to me, but to the bosses, and saying like what is this? Like, what, are you just gonna have a bunch of kids getting shot and killed? And I remember it being a bit of a headbutting thing going on of like, just let us deliver the script. And so it was very clear when we were doing that. We took a lot of time. We can usually break an episode pretty quickly. That was not broken quickly, like the finales. And yeah, I mean, we went through every single step. I mean, it was hard. I remember the day that Mark came into the room and he pitched Keith getting shot. And it was the pitch was beat for beat. So we were all in there, and he went through, and then it was Dan coming in, and it was over. And then all of a sudden Jimmy shooting himself, and then it was over. And then you're feeling so horrible and sad for that. And then all of a sudden he picks it up and points it, and the writer's room was silent for 5 minutes. I mean, it was, nobody knew it. Everybody just sat there because, one, we all love Uncle Keith. I mean, Uncle Keith was just like almost like a grounding, like, that warm blanket character. And it was different. I'm really glad I was a part of it though. And I remember, I feel like we filmed it. Did you guys ever see us film, like any filming of that? I feel like the writer's room of that was filmed for a DVD
Hmm.
behind the scenes or something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I've seen that. It's on the DVD extras, like it's
yeah, I'm
showing
in
like
there.
on the
I'm in
whiteboard.
there looking a lot younger. So
What?
Such an impactful couple of episodes.
yeah,
Not only obviously writing in, Dan killing Keith, that comfort blanket, like you said, but kind of the return of a character that's essentially forgotten. He's like in the pilot, kind of it, and then we move on, and then suddenly what amazes me is those kind of ideas that come from a room of people going, "Hey, do you remember this guy? Let's
yeah,
bring him back." And the whole premise of this is that he's been forgotten by his friends, and
yeah.
this is how he feels. And just the pure emotion from the page to the screen is just like
Yeah.
a level above.
Yeah.
It's excellent.
And I agree. And I mean, it was really special to be a part of it. That whole thing. I mean, I don't want to get into like why he went away. There was he was unavailable or something, but it was like there was never a plan for him to go away. It was he was in the pilot. He was a great character. He and Mouth, they were like the duo. And then I just remember he was in that whole season. Like we had him broken that whole season, and then we were told he is not in the show anymore. He's unavailable, and we were like, oh my goodness. And then it did work out that when we brought him back, he was the forgotten friend. He was the person that Mouth started hanging out with the popular crowd and sort of left him behind. And it just that was just one of those fortunate things that happened that but I mean, he was chosen for that reason. I mean, it was when it was let's bring him back and they're not friends with him anymore. And it's, I think that some kids out there probably could identify with that of being sort of abandoned by their friends that they grew up with. So but yeah, it's a heartbreaking. I'll admit I've only watched that episode once because it hits me really hard. I've only saw it one time in the writer's room, not even when it aired.
But
So
it's and the episode they are so important and everything about it is really well written. Colin's performance as well is so good in it. Is so good. Everyone's performance, but yeah, I mean, and we always say that he's the character that has the least amount of screen time, but you could argue has the biggest impact on the show because
mhm.
it changes everything.
Yep.
With that being said, on a slight side note before we sort of move towards season four,
Yep.
is Paul Johansson, Dan Scott, one of the best antagonists in TV history, in our opinion. We love the guy, the character, and the man. But how fun was it coming up with like lines and dialogue for Dan? It must have been a dream.
Dan and Brooke were the two characters that were so fun to write dialogue for because they could get away with anything. The two of them could say anything, and it didn't really. You just got it. It was okay. He was so much fun to write for. Two of the writers on the show, Mike Harrow and Dave Strauss, they were just like they were the Dan like they channeled Dan Scott in that writer's room. Like they were just firing off dialogue, they were firing off ideas, and when I can't think about Dan Scott without thinking about those two writers.
That's so
But
great.
he was fun, and then Paul Johansson, as you said you've met him, he's so funny, he's so great. So he was always a joy to work with.
Can Sorry, Simon.
No, go. I knew.
Can I ask how much input do the actors have on their lines and scripts? Like, let's say, as we're down the line, we're in 4, 5, 6 seasons in, they know, understand, feel the character every day. How do they have any input? Are writers very much against them having input, or is it all a collaborative experience, or can it depend? I've asked you a lot there, so.
No, no, no. It's a great question. First, I'll say it depends on the show, first. And on this show, um, uh, the scripts were a lot like Mark wanted the dialogue written in the script to be the dialogue that was used. Now, as far as like later on, I remember when I was doing the wedding episode with Sophia, it was Brooke's wedding. I wrote her about like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? She was doing vows. I said, do you want to take a crack at these? Things like that. I've always been someone that wants to hear the input, especially from someone that's been playing a character for 150 episodes. I want to know, like, I wouldn't do this, I would do this. But it depends on the show. I mean, on my show, I talk to all of the actors about their characters, and but yeah, on One Tree Hill, I mean, because we weren't there, we wrote in L.A. and sent the scripts off to Wilmington. Um, uh, I think that it was, I mean, and by the way, the early days of actually sending scripts, like mailing scripts to them. I mean, it was like that's how far back we're going. Like overnighting scripts to Wilmington. There was a little bit of a disconnect between they weren't able to just come in the writer's room and sit with us and say, I think this or I think this, or Zoom. We did a writer's room for my show, and all the cast came on the Zoom, talked to the writers. I like this. Is there any like, special skills you have? Can you play the guitar? Can you do this? Let's incorporate it. But we didn't really do that on One Tree Hill because there was 3,000 miles between us.
Mm. Well, amazing.
But you did do a good job of incorporating people's real life talents into the show. Just to add on to that, like you had a lot of singers, performers, like Tyler Hilton, Kate Vogel, obviously Bethany Joy Lenz sings, and obviously James Lafferty playing basketball and those things. Were those things that those people were cast know it like because of those talents to bring it in, or were there any things like that where it's like, oh, you've got that talent, let's write that into your character as well?
Unless I'm mistaken, and I don't think I am, I think absolutely it was they have a talent, so let's write that. I don't think there was this idea to have Haley become a singer, but Joy's really talented. And so I don't think, well, I know if Joy wasn't a talented singer, I don't think Haley would have had a singing storyline. I know that the show loved finding singers, so that's why, I mean, like Chris Keller came in. It's because he was a great singer and all of this. I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you've ever seen this picture. I'm gonna put it on here if you don't mind, real quick.
Yes.
We had so many artists, singers, come into the writer's room, and they would and I can email you this later so you have it. We had the writers come into the writer's room and perform for us. And this is, oh, don't tell me, there's no way I can't find this. No, 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 sorry. Okay. So this was long ago. But this was a singer, 19 years old, came into the writer's room because she wanted her song in the show. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Katy Perry.
Oh,
Oh wow, yeah,
wow.
it is, yeah.
And so that was my episode. That's my episode on the board. That's not me, but that's my episode on the board. And the the she just wanted to get her song in the show, and we played her song. It was I think it was the Brave New World episode, and it was like she sounded like Alanis Morissette back then. It was like it was a different Katy Perry, but we had so many, like it was a couple times a week we had a singer come in, and a lot of them went on to become like named singers. That was a pretty fun perk, I think.
Yeah, that's
So,
amazing. And Dom, you famously, obviously, Dom, you really love music. So yeah, as do I. But I mean, we know that One Tree Hill has this like massive draw with music. And so we try and incorporate that. Sorry, go on, Dom. I can feel your question.
I was gonna say I can feel, sense the question. I was actually gonna say, a lot of the music in One Tree Hill kind of didn't make it over here. So it's hard to kind of like some of it is a
Yeah,
bit of an unknown. So it's always great to hear the ones that you do know. But in Motorheads, however, the music's fantastic in
yeah,
Motorhead. Like from the second it starts, it's like we're in. Like, I think it's Fall Out Boy is the first thing you hear, and it's
yeah,
like boom, and it was kind of like all nostalgic stuff, then a bit of new stuff, and then more nostalgic stuff. And yeah, very cool. So the music in Motorheads, I think, resonated with me with a lot more than it does for One Tree Hill.
Oh, thanks. And it should be worth pointing because I did see one person say like they just went to the top 50 on the global charts and put all the music in. But because it's streaming, you do stuff so long ago. We put that music in a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
And so Benson Boone was not, nobody knew who Benson Boone was a year and a half ago. So we put that beautiful things in there. And then all of a sudden, we lock picture, we lock sound. I love the song. And then a year goes by and he gets nominated for Grammys, and people are like, oh, they're putting it. I'm like, we wouldn't be able to afford that song right now. I mean, we have like Billie Eilish and all these people, but we did go nostalgic for flashbacks. So
yeah.
Flash, Fall Out Boy, The Killers, all that is in the flashbacks. And then present day, you know, yeah, we were lucky. We got a pretty good budget for that. You know,
We have a lot to say about Motorheads, like all great things, of course. But hang on, we're in. Let's
yeah, yeah,
go.
yeah.
So we moved. So we moved to season four. Um, how what was your experience there? Like now the show's super established, super
Yeah.
like a massive hit still. Like, is it still feeling like it's gonna get cancelled, even though like you're still
Yeah.
doing finales like that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they all blend together for me. You know, it's like that particular season. I think we shifted over. Not that it matters for the story, but just it matters in my memory. We shifted over um, from the main Warner Brothers campus to the kind of we were banished to the ranch, which means you're like putting us out to pasture. You're not gonna be around much longer, and we did 5 more years. But I don't know. I mean, by then we were just a family. I mean, we got into fights, got into so many arguments, and then it was just. It did become, and I don't know how it felt watching it, but it's just when you do 22 a year, which nobody does anymore, but when you do 22 a year, it's just it's 9.5 months in a room every day with a bunch of people. And it's just trying so hard to keep the show fresh and keep the show, you know, at a level that it deserves to be. So, yeah, I mean, you can't go 9 seasons without like, a few episodes in there that are like, oh, it's not our best. It's not our best. But, you kind of hang your hat on the great ones each season. And, I didn't go through all the episodes. It says I wrote down the ones I wrote that year and I I know the titles, but I don't really even remember the episodes. I should have looked up exactly what they were, but yeah, I mean, and like what year was Dog Eating a Heart? Do you remember that year?
This must be season six, I'd say. It's definitely after the time jump, so it's like yeah, five or six in there.
Yeah.
People are mad at me. The listeners are mad at me for not knowing exactly the episode title, the date it was released. But I mean, well, let me ask you this. So, 22 episodes in a season. Like some of my favorite shows have that format. I'm a massive fan of Lost, of Prison
Yeah.
Break, obviously One Tree Hill and plenty of others. Dom, massive Star Trek fan, right? Of the same sort of format of the season length. And now, as you said, we know that shows for streamers are a lot shorter. It's like in the UK, a lot of our seasons are 6 episodes. Um,
Yeah.
as how do you feel about that as a writer? Like, do you miss that longer format, or do you prefer, hey, actually, we're going sort of quality over quantity?
I miss it. I do think there's a quality over quantity having fewer, but I wish it was 15. I wish that a season was 15. I think that 22 is too long. I'm grateful for it. I mean, I've done 15 of my 22 years has been a 22 episode season. It's draining. And so it's great practice, but the quality suffers. It just does. I think we did a pretty good job on this show, though, of like making sure that when you got to episode 17, 18, that we did maybe a kind of an unusual episode, something kind of fun, something a little outside the box to mix it up. But I think 6 is way too short. I mean, it depends on the show. If you're doing a standalone show like Black Mirror, it doesn't really matter. But if you do a show, certainly a YA show, I felt 10 was too little. I just did, and I had some fans saying, "Hey, I wish they'd have done this. I wish that they'd have done that." And I think I wrote back to someone and said, I'm under the mindset of 22 a year, so we're only halfway through season one in my mind.
Love that.
So there's I refuse to rush anything. I'm not going to rush anything because I know there was a show called October Road. I don't know if you remember that show. It was Brian Greenberg who played Jake Jagelski in One Tree Hill. And I know that they did a condensed version of that show. It was like 6 episodes, and it was supposed to be 22. And they literally put like the episode 22 twist finale in episode 6. And I don't want to talk about it. That show was actually really good. It was the Beautiful Girls creator, but I don't know. I just like longer. 15 would be perfect. I'll even take 13. So I'm
Is
not-
it an attention thing? Because one thing that we've talked to Matt Sullivan, who's set decorator for One Tree Hill, and we've gone out and met him and spent a lot of time with him. We're very gracious with his time. And one thing that we talked to him about is kind of second screen in mind, and how that's kind of affecting how people write, how people design things, how people put things in place, how long episodes are, and the attention of people now. And is that kind of why we're getting shorter seasons? Is it something you have to think about when putting pen to paper now?
I think I, I don't. I literally I wrote Motorheads as if I was writing One Tree Hill. I wrote it the same way. But I think maybe some people do. I think that it's shorter seasons because the streaming model, most of them, it's not about getting advertisers. And so when you have 22 episodes, all of those commercials, they add up. It's a lot of money. On streamers, they don't have that. They have I mean, some of them are trying to go to that model, but if you look at like a Netflix, they're just trying to keep subscribers, and if they have 10 episodes of a show, um I think in their mind that's the same as having 22 of a show. I mean, I'm not in their heads, I'm not talking to them, but that's got to be my only guess. I just don't think the business model really makes sense for 22 unless you're on network television. And even now, I mean, I think the procedurals are all 22 now still because it makes sense. But I was on All American for 6 years, and I think that the most we ever did was, well, no, we went up to 20 a couple times, but we did 16, then we did 20. I think they do 13 now. So I don't know. I think 13 to 15 is a good number though.
Well, we want to talk to you about like transitioning to doing producing as well. But before we get to that, I have to ask a question that my wife wanted me to ask you, if I may, which is uh, as a writer in television, what who are you a fan of like other shows that you're a fan of their writing? Like you love the writing in Breaking Bad or whatever. Like what shows are you a big fan of for the writing?
I mean, Breaking Bad. Vince Gilligan is a genius. It's interesting. I mean, Vince Gilligan, Aaron Sorkin. I saw an interview with I was at an interview with Vince Gilligan. He did a Q&A somewhere I was at, and he was talking about his writing as compared to Aaron Sorkin, and he was talking about the way he was trained on the X-Files was different than like an Aaron Sorkin type of bantery dialogue. And he actually said, as great as he said that he wished that he did that kind of dialogue, but he doesn't. It's not how he does it. And I'm sure there's people that do bantery dialogue that wish that they could do what he does, which is pure genius. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of his. Um, um, I haven't seen his new show, but the Queen's Gambit writer. I just think the Queen's Gambit is one of the best like series ever. I'm big. Just all the early days of David Kelly. All of the I'm a as you know lawyer, and The Practice and Ally McBeal and all of those shows. I miss those shows. They don't really do those fun law shows anymore. But I mean, yeah, those are the shows I've always really loved. But it's you know I don't know, a lot of those character based shows you don't see as many anymore. I mean, I think there's a lot of network shows that need a hook, that need a time travel or whatever. Nothing against those, but yeah, I mean, there's too many to list. But yeah, I'm just a big fan of great writers. So.
Nice. Same. Well, so okay, so you continue in writing for One Tree Hill. How did you transition into producing? And can we ask you the question that we really want to know, which is what does a producer really do? Like, as in, we know that they're very important for like I think my idea of what a producer does is they kind of bring the people together and it's a lot of like coordinating the moving parts, like in terms of from a production standpoint. Is that right? And yeah, how did you move in towards that?
So, this is I don't know if it's the dirty little secret of writing, but unless you are, what I am on Motorheads, unless you're one of the head producers, one of unless you're an executive producer, it's all Writers Guild title. So, when you become a writer in the Writers Guild, there's steps. A first year writer is a staff writer. A second year writer is a story editor. A third year writer is an executive story editor. A fourth year writer is a co-producer. A fifth year writer is a producer. A sixth year writer is a supervising producer. A seventh year writer is a co-executive producer. And then you stay at co-executive producer unless you become an executive producer, which is very rare. So you're only an executive producer if you are involved in the inception of the show or you become a showrunner. So once I got to that level, I think I had already been doing producing on the show. I mean, you're producing as soon as you're going into post and sitting for your episode, and you're giving notes on the cut. When you're going into the mix, and the mix is the sound mix, and you're giving notes on that's too loud, that's too low, turn this up. The song shouldn't start right there; it should start there. That's producing. You're already producing. So, as far as budget stuff, like there's so many levels of producing. Like on once you become a showrunner, you're choosing wardrobe, you're choosing everybody on the crew, you're choosing all the heads of the department. You're on Motorheads, I chose the color of the backpacks, everything. I mean, it was every aspect of that. I picked. I chose this thing. They handmade this. They 3D printed this. And But on that show, when I became a producer, I think by that time, because we'd been there a while, we were already producing a little bit. Like we were already getting to do little things. And then when you go to set, you're producing. I mean, you're giving notes on performance, and you're telling the director that's not really what I was going for. In the early days when we weren't going, there's something really frustrating, and it's never the actor's fault. There's something really frustrating when something is lost in translation between the script and the actor, and they don't know what your intention was. And so what you do is you give a tone meeting with the director, and you walk through the script, and you talk about the tone of each scene, and then you hope they get it. Now, if you're on set, you can say it on the day, like what's going on. And I remember specifically, and this wasn't, I mean, Hillary was fantastic. This wasn't, she didn't know this. But there was a scene that I wrote, and it was supposed to be a joke, but I didn't write she's joking, and I didn't write like she grins or she smiles. And I got the dailies back, and it was delivered serious. And so I think we had to cut it because it wasn't, she didn't know. I mean, she's just reading the script, and nobody is there directing her. But had I been there producing the episode, I would have caught it. So that was long-winded, but it's for the Writers Guild. It's a lot of it is title. So
It's very interesting, super interesting. Okay, and so when we get I really want to give a good amount of space to Motorheads because I mean it's amazing and obviously it's what's happening right now. So if we can let's fast forward there and we can come back and fill in any gaps that we have, if that's okay.
yeah.
So Motorheads, how did this come to be? And I mean, for anyone that's not that hasn't seen it yet, let's just say Amazon Prime, amazing. I think I would describe it. It's almost like modern day One Tree Hill meets Fast and the Furious. I mean, I'm sure that's been coined somewhere, right? Uh, So great. How did it happen? Like, when did you get the idea for it? Please take us
Yeah.
to the beginning.
Yeah, and before I do that, it is funny because we always said Friday Night Lights meets Fast and Furious, and then I wrote it. That was in the pitch, and then when I wrote it, I realized I was writing One Tree Hill without basketball, but with cars. And so it is funny that I've seen so many articles about this reminds me of One Tree Hill. This reminds me of One Tree Hill, and then comments will be like, well, one of the writers wrote a bunch of those episodes, but it was I was still on All American, which is a show on the CW. And I'd been on All American maybe for 5 years at the time. I stayed on it for another year. And we went into COVID lockdown. This is how far we're going back. This is May of 2020. We're in Los Angeles is fully locked down. I mean, so locked down that if you walked your dog with your mask under your nose, people screamed at you out of cars, put your mask on. So that's how bad it was in LA. And we were, there was just sort of this like lack of hope, and really, I was in this depression, and I wanted to work on something because we were shut down. We weren't on the show. The show, everything was shut down, and so I told my agents I want to work on something, and they hooked me up with a producer. And this is not a Writers Guild thing. This is a producer that produces Jason Seagraves, and who's fantastic, and he's been my partner through this whole journey. And he had this idea of a small town obsessed with car culture, and in the margins of his, he sent me this little document. It was, a photo of like a woman standing in front of a car before a street race, and it said in the margins like Friday Night Lights, One Tree Hill, Fast and Furious. And he's admitted to me later that he added One Tree Hill when he heard it was coming to me. He told me like a year ago. But anyway, I got on it was intriguing to me because I hadn't revisited like the YA teen thing other than, I'd gone back to All American, and now we were out of high school on All American, and I missed it. I missed writing hallways, and I missed like that was my roots of One Tree Hill. And so I got on the phone with him, and I had gone on some long walks, and I came up with this idea. I was always the new kid growing up because I was in the military, so I wanted two new kids. And I the whole pitch turned into everyone remembers their first car, right? And turning the key in their first car. And my first car was a dented Pontiac Grand Am. And the next incarnation of the Grand Am was the Sunfire, which is Marcel's car. And I loved the car, except when I was in the high school parking lot. And we had a kid at school that he had a Ferrari, the Magnum PI one. And so that's kind of the Harris Bowers of it all, where he has the Porsche. And that feeling of, loving your car and all this pride, and then pulling into the parking lot and then wanting to park 4 rows away so no one sees your car. I just felt like that was relatable. And so we talked about that and talked about the new kids. And then he's like, well, why don't you go off and like come up with a pitch? And I came up with a pitch, and it was the full pitch of if you ever want to see it, I'm not going to show it publicly, but we recorded it. We recorded a pitch, and he produced it. He put music to it. He put images to it. And it's this 23-minute outstanding production of when I said like set along the Allegheny River just outside of Pittsburgh. We have a beautiful sunset shot over the Allegheny. And when I talk about the Sunfire, there's pictures of it and everything. And we decided to do that and send it out because I wasn't going to go into any rooms and pitch to anyone anytime soon with COVID. And Zoom wasn't really a thing yet. I mean, we were on Zoom, but it wasn't. Zoom blew up during COVID. I don't know if you remember that. So anyway, we sent it around, and Amazon bought it, and it's just been a long journey. Like streaming takes forever. So we sell it, and then it takes forever to do the deal, and then they want the pilot, and they had options on scripts. So I turned in the pilot, and then they had an option for a second episode, and I wrote the Firefly episode, Glow. They had an option for a third one. I wrote the Street Takeover episode, and then they had an option for a Bible, and the Bible is the whole season, but a paragraph synopsis of every episode. And I wrote that, and then it was, and this isn't, I'm not talking about Amazon or anything, but this is just the state of the business. Then the can starts getting kicked down the road. We'll know in January. We'll know in March. We'll know in June. And then finally, August of a few years ago, I woke up to an email and it said, "Can you get on a phone with?" And it listed all of these people from Amazon that I'd never met. Can you get on the phone with them in 2 hours? And I was like, oh my goodness. And so Jason Seagraves and I got on the phone and it was, they're not putting all these people on to say no, right? I mean, is this for real? Because getting a show greenlit is just so hard. And it's just people sell so many pilots and they don't go. And so we got the call and they said, we're going to make it. And it was a really, really, really good call. Then we ran into strike issues. So, we sell the show and then they need all 10 episodes scripted by before the writers strike.
Mm.
um, and we weren't sure that we were going on strike, but just in case. And it was sort of implied, if you don't get all 10 scripts in, it's show's gone. And so there was a lot of hard work to get 10 episodes done. And writers went on strike. We all went on strike, and we had hired the Ruben Fleischer who directed the Zombieland movies, and
Oh yeah.
he directed the Now You See Me 3 that's coming out soon, the third one. But because of the strikes, he fell out. And then we were just on strike, and this is the worst part about shooting a street racing show in Toronto is you can't shoot in the winter. There's no shooting street racing in 20 below or whatever in snow. And so we needed the strike to end by a certain date in the fall to be able to shoot the show before the winter. And the strike ended a week too late. And so we had to wait 6 more months
Mm.
to last April. And we were able to start shooting the show. And I don't know if you can tell from, I mean, it's the magic of cinema. But the first two episodes, we had 16 out days, and 14 of them rained or snowed, and you can't tell. The Firefly Festival is torrential downpour. Like it is fully raining at all times. When they're on the Ferris wheel, it's pouring on them. Every time we yelled cut, they put a umbrella up. It was just so hard and so cold. And then we used VFX to put green trees and bushes and everything. So when you see Harris Bowers on the top of that bridge, and he's really on top of that bridge, I've seen some reviews that said it's bad green screen. And I'm like, no, that's just the wind blowing the drone. He's up there. Um, I actually wrote that to someone, and I said, just he's really up there. And I sent a picture of me taking a photo from afar of him nervous sitting up there super high. But he was surrounded by bare trees. All VFX we put in VFX. That's all. All that green is not real. So anyway, that's how we that's how we were able to do it. But it was a long road. I mean, we premiered May 20th of 2025, this past May, 5 years after selling it.
Wow. But
10
what?
episodes, 5 years.
What an amazing story. So many things in there. Firstly, that scene of him on top of the bridge when I was watching it with my wife, I was like, look, it's like the One Tree Hill Bridge, but it's
Yeah.
different and it's up there and it's dangerous. And that's such a great shot. I thought that was real. I was thinking, well, hopefully there's some safety precautions here. It's not Tom Cruise in it up there, but uh,
We
but
VFX off all of his straps. He was strapped in, but we were able to remove those.
well,
Yeah.
but that kind of was a big thing of like, oh, this it differentiated it from One Tree Hill because it was like you wouldn't get. I mean, obviously it's 20 years apart, or whatever. But it's like you wouldn't get shots like this. It kind of made it more like, oh, this is more dangerous. There's like more edge to it.
Yeah.
But can I to take it back to when you're on the big call with all the people from Amazon, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna make it. Like, how do you celebrate that moment when you get off the call? Like what do you do that night? That's got to be the pop the champagne moment, right? That like you've done it. You've sold your own show.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think back. I certainly think my wife and I went to dinner. But it was, I mean, it was surreal. It was really hard I remember just sitting there for a little while and shaking, and then you do start like doubt starts to creep in, and you're like, did they mess up? Did they, should they have done this? But yeah, I mean, it was a celebration, but it was, it was a it didn't feel real for a little while. I'll be honest, like I told people about it, and I don't think everyone fully believed it because Amazon doesn't announce anything. And so we told friends and family, but then like you don't see anything for a little while, and then it's like we kept asking them, "Can you announce it? Can you announce it? Can you put it in deadline? Can you do it?" And finally, I think it was a year after we were greenlit, they announced it. So but yeah, it was I mean yeah, it was the best professional phone call of my life. And it was I don't know, it was surreal. And it's I mean to this day it still is. I say all the time, when I put the show on, like I'm so far removed from it now because it goes through so many processes of post. And it took 5 months just to dub it into 200 languages. And
That's
we were
crazy.
yeah and we were just I was just like, I can't believe, I mean, I'm so proud of it. I really am. I think it's the best thing I've ever been a part of. And it's hard to say that on a One Tree Hill podcast, but it was just so many people working so hard to, we watched the sun come up 100 times, because it's a lot of night shoots. So it was, yeah, to this day, it's still a little surreal that it happened and that we made it.
Something that I really love about the show, and particularly enjoyed, is that you see, not only is there a hook straight away, and you wanna keep watching because you want to find out what happens, but you have the origin story. So you have these teenagers, young adults, whatever you want to call them, that are sort of kind of coming of age, but you have the origin story as well. And that's one thing that, like, me and Simon have talked about in the past, is we'd love to know about Dan and Keith and Royal and their origin story. And we could write that, we could do something, like get someone to write it or whatever it might be. But we see this in Motorheads, and that's what I really, really enjoy about it is, oh, great, I'm getting the context of the past and what's happened, and then I'm
Mhm.
seeing it in modern day, and I'm loving that so much. It's so
Yeah.
good.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah, the flashbacks were so much fun. It was we cast Deacon Philippi, who is Ryan Philippi and Reese Witherspoon's son, to play Christian, to play the dad. And when we cast him in that, it was kind of a thing of like it was going to be flash pops. It was just going to be like we were going to see little things, and it really evolved and into this mystery of like, where is he? And, I've always said, a lot of people are like the bank robbery, the bank robbery. I don't even think the bank robbery is the best part of those flashbacks. I think the best part of those flashbacks is seeing the dad with that car. Like you see him with the car, you see him working on the car, you see him, it's just, they don't know their dad. They miss their dad. They wish they knew him. And, I hope we get to make more episodes. I mean, you never know with Amazon or Netflix or any of the streamers. I hope we get to make more because there's a lot more to come with that for
Is
sure.
is that connection between characters that haven't met as well through this object as
Oh
well?
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
Caitlin's a
everybody asked me about the love triangles and quadrangles and stuff, and I told Melissa Colazzo, who plays Caitlin, I told her the true love story in season one is Caitlin in the car.
Mm.
The car is like it means everything to her, and it's this connection to her dad. And she says in episode 7, sorry, spoiler, Simon, but it's she says in episode 7 that the reason that she gets a little obsessed with it as the season goes on, and she says, I just feel like, I know I'm never going to meet dad, and turning the key is to me will be like hearing his voice for the first time.
Mm.
And that is when she turns the key in episode, I mean, it's one of the best moments for me of the entire season. I get goosebumps to this day every time she turns the key to that car. And so yeah, the connection with the car and to the past, and like, when we see him in 7 and he touches the hood, and then we match cut to her sanding the hood, like those moments that's the show for me. And it's like the small moments that really make it for me. And I always say, I've heard, female friends from like, high school write me and they're like, "Oh, this show looks great for my husband." And I'm like, "No, this is for you." I think that sometimes you hear Motorheads and you're like, "Oh, well, this is about people that like racing." And it is the equivalent of the basketball in One Tree Hill. Like it's like, yes, it's in there and it's fun and it's exciting, but this is about the characters. And I just think that, the two characters laying underneath the hood of a car and they like each other is that's just as important to me as any of the races, if not more.
Yeah, those shots are great as well. When it's like through the engine of the car, you see them there
Yeah.
together, and then they're interrupted all the time.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
thing I wanted to ask you is like Caitlin and Logan's kind of dialogue throughout is quite can be quite technical. So are
Mhm.
you already mechanically minded, or is this something you've had to learn as you
Oh,
go?
we have a mechanic on set. It's funny. Like we have a mechanic on set, but we also all through post. I mean, post is long. I say like you do a whole month before you shoot each block, and all those scripts go through car people. We used 600 cars in the season, and
Wow.
Billy Boyd, our car guy, is fantastic. And yeah, I mean, I would absolutely do research when I wrote the scripts, and then I'd turn it in, and they're like, "Well, we wouldn't say that. We wouldn't say it like that. We'd say it like this." And then anytime they're working on those cars, they're working on those cars. Like we have someone there, and we say when we're blocking it, what could they be doing? What would they be doing at this stage of a rebuild? And he's like, well, they could be doing this, and then they'd show them how to do it. They all took a an auto mechanic class before we started filming, to so they knew the basics of how to hold things and how to do things. So we tried to be as authentic as we can. I will say, because I answered someone. I don't often answer someone, but someone asked me about, they would have said this, this, and this. And I said, at the end of the day, it's a teen show that is about love triangles and stuff like that. And the technical jargon of rebuilding a car isn't that interesting. And so, we kept it. We had a lot of it, but if it was fully accurate of every single thing they're doing, I think that people are turning the channel off. So
As
that's
as the son of a mechanic, I can tell you that you're spot on, right?
yeah. Yeah. We tried as much as we could to keep it interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, with that being said, and obviously only answer what you feel, what you're comfortable answering, or what you're able to answer. I'm not trying to push you or pressure you, but you such a great cast, concept, writing, love it. Can't wait to finish it, and to keep going with it. But do you have like an overall vision for how long the show would go if like hopefully you get more seasons, like do you already have that mapped out?
I do. I mean, we've already written season two. And I think 5 seasons would be great. I already know how it ends. I know what the final moment of the entire show is. Um, Hopefully we get to do that. It's that all that's out of my hands. All we can do is make a great show and hope that everyone loves it and hope that they want to make more. But yeah, I mean, I think that, in this, in the One Tree Hill days, I mean, we did 187 episodes of One Tree Hill. There's no 187 episodes of streaming shows. It just doesn't exist, especially when there's so much time in between. So I do think that, uh, not in season two, but I would get them out of high school pretty quickly, because there's so much time in between seasons. I absolutely have plans for what do they do next. And yeah, I mean, it's we the flashbacks in the first season were from 20 years earlier to 17 years earlier, but they don't get any closer than that. The flashbacks in season two are much closer to present day. So we're getting closer to where what happened, and find out a lot of stuff. But yeah, I know where every single character ends in the series. But all of the episodes in between. That's all blue sky that we would come up with. But yeah, we were able to do a writer's room already, a pre-green light writer's room for season two. And so now they look at the metrics. And so they're still in the process of whatever the metrics, whatever they look for. So we'll see. Fingers crossed, though. I'm
So,
optimistic.
so
We'll
people,
keep watching it over and over.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, helps.
Well, it went to number one, right, in the
Yeah,
US, so,
that was so surprising. Yeah, no, in the world.
or in the world.
We premiered on a Tuesday, which is rare. They usually premiere shows on Thursday, but we premiered on a Tuesday, and I'll be honest, we were just hoping to be in the top 10 within like a week. And the next afternoon, we were number one in the US, and we didn't know where we were in the world. I wasn't even thinking about the world. I didn't know about Flix Patrol that they go to all of the primes and they tally them up. And the next day, we were number one in the world.
Wow.
And then the next day, Clarkson Farm premiered. And so we dropped out of number one in Europe, but we stayed number one because we were so strong in Brazil and Mexico and Spain, Italy. We stayed ahead of them in the world. And then we flip-flopped in the US with them for the next because they had a new episode every Thursday. So like by like Monday or Tuesday, we were back to number one, and then on Thursday they would jump back to number one. But yeah, I mean, we didn't expect that. We were just hoping people would watch the show. I always said, I just hoped that we could make one person's favorite show, and I think we did. I think we did.
That
That's right.
that's just phenomenal. Like number one in the world. I mean, and Amazon Prime, it's so huge, I mean,
Yeah,
it's up there as, it's Netflix, Amazon, yeah, Apple. That's like it's up, it's the main. I mean, that's so amazing. And in some ways has a reach that One Tree Hill is obviously cult following, massive show. But I mean, I don't know if it would have had it. It didn't have that instant hit worldwide. Like we would get it in the UK, like delayed. It'd be like we'd get America back then, anyways. Particularly, we'd get American shows a bit later. But with the streamers now, everyone's getting it at the same time. I mean,
yeah.
I wouldn't even be able to fathom what that would feel like to feel like how many millions of people have seen it. That's so cool. So just
It
congratulations.
Thank you. It's wild thinking about like I know that we were just so big in Brazil and which I love and it was seeing them posting on Twitter X whatever it's called and then you're translating what they're saying and so many people are loving it and I wasn't expecting any of that. With One Tree Hill, it was funny because we became big internationally, but there was a delay because it was a different time. There was no streaming platform. And I remember like, seeing the different titles. Like in France, we were Le Frere Scott, the brothers Scott. And then I see we have a bunch of different titles of Motorheads. So in France, we are the Unbeatables. That's the name of our show. In Brazil, we are Fast and Passionate. Uh,
I like that. I like that.
yeah, that's a good one. So there's a bunch of different ones which I get a kick out of. I think it's fun.
So
So
cool. So cool. Well, yeah. So everyone, Motorheads, Amazon Prime, go and watch that. As we don't want to take up. We could go on forever, and so we'll definitely be inviting you back at some point if you give us the time. But could you give as to some rounding off type questions? Is there one thing, and not in like a negative way to anybody who wrote it or anything, but is there anything in One Tree Hill that you wished hadn't happened, like a storyline you wish you could have taken out or changed in retrospect?
um yeah, let me think. I'm just gonna make it make it right in my head before I say it, if that's okay.
Of course.
I mean, look, a lot of people love it, and I don't want, I'll get, I'm sure I'll have a writer say, "Why did you say that?" But I don't know that I would have married Nathan and Haley so quickly. I remember that moment in the room, and I was like, I don't know. It worked out. They had Jamie, and it was, I don't. I don't know about that one. It's funny because I probably would have told you back then the dog eating the heart, but I embrace that now. I'm like that was a total joke pitch. That was never a real pitch. And then we were at a place in the show where I guess it was like, let's do something shocking. And I just remember Joe Davola came into the writer's room. He was one of the producers, executive producers, and he's like, "We're doing the dog eating the hot." That was his. He had an accent. He was like a Brooklyn type guy. He's like, "We're doing the dog eating the hot," and we all started laughing, like he's joking. And he's like, "We're doing it. It's happening." And then we were all like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." And I remember for years, and this is just a fact. I mean, like I'm so proud of the show, but for years that kind of follows you around as a writer. You leave that show and you go into meetings and they look at your thing, and the One Tree Hill to a lot of people in Hollywood was dog eating a heart. And so that wasn't, it's turned into such a great credit that it's like because it stood the test of time and people love it, and it clearly has such a great following. There was a little window in there where I feel like it wasn't the best. It wasn't the like that moment hurt the credit a little bit, if that makes sense. I've always been proud of the credit, but I did feel that in some meetings. So if that
Well,
makes
and to give like a further compliment to you and the writers and everyone in One Tree Hill, I often think about this. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a massive fan of the TV show Lost, and at one point that was the biggest show in the world, right? Undoubtedly, and it's still massive. Like people still are into it and everything, but there's no Lost conventions. Like there's no. Like the cast or just the cast are doing it. They might have people pop up at a Comic Con and stuff, but there is no Lost people traveling just to go see a Lost convention. But like you said before, I think it was maybe before we started recording, but with One Tree Hill, the conventions that if anything, they're gaining momentum as
yeah.
time is going on, which is
Every
madness.
weekend. I mean, yeah, it's beyond standing the test of time. I really believe that the characters they they just resonated. Like there was a relatability, there was a grounded quality. Forget dogs eating hearts and all that. It was the characters were just really likable and like you wanted to be friends with them. And I've always tried to write characters relatable. I wrote a bunch of One Tree Hill, but I was also, as you know, involved in breaking a lot of those shows, and everybody in that room was so good at writing characters, and it matters. The audience seeing these characters themselves in these characters, and I think that when you watch Lost, it's an escape. I loved Lost too. I mean, I never missed an episode of Lost. I had theories that sharks with the label on it, but it you didn't relate to all of them. Like it was an escape. It was a great kind of what's happening now. I have to watch the next episode, but I think that when you watch like a One Tree Hill, um, um, you really relate to it. I mean, I don't want to name any of them because it'll come back at me, but look at some of the other YA shows that were huge. I don't see conventions for those shows.
Mhm.
The One Tree Hill convention thing is it's pretty special, I think. So I've gone to Wilmington too for those conventions. I sometimes like to go to just sort of be there and see it. I don't get up on stage, but I'll have dinner with the cast and have fun. So
So
Oh
cool.
yeah. Hell yeah. That's awesome.
that's the fun version of it.
Well, again, then I guess the final one then. And again, I don't know what, you're able to say or, whatever you're comfortable saying, if and that can just be nothing. But we obviously know as fans, and from speaking to Sophia and Joy and Rob recently, obviously the reboot of One Tree Hill is coming soon. Dom and I even pitched for ourselves to be background performers in the reboot because why not? We had the opportunity. Sophia was right there. She said yes. So
Well, she didn't say no, was
she said it was a golden idea, which I'm taking as a yes. But we'll see. But how do you feel about One Tree Hill coming back? And yeah, what's your excitement about that? would you ever be, if they ever reached out? I mean, again, we don't know what's going on. If they ever reached out to you, would you ever be interested in, writing more One Tree Hill in the future?
But first of all, I'm super excited for them. I don't know like at what stage it is or whatever. You never know with streaming. I think it's Netflix. I'm not sure. Maybe it's Peacock or Max or one of the, I don't know. But it's those things can be in development for years and years and years. So I don't know where it's at. But I mean, I'd be excited to see like what they come up with and what they do. I don't know if I would want to personally want to revisit just because it's, when I left after season 8, I did this whole like, saying goodbye thing. I got really emotional. I cried. And then I was asked to come back for season 9, and that was not easy to say. I've let I've I've said goodbye to the show, and I still feel that. I feel like I liked where I left, Brooke's wedding, and I liked where it was. I'd be so. I mean, of course, I would watch it. I'm so interested to see like where they would be. I do hope that you know if it's done, they can get everyone, because what I don't want to see is characters split up because they couldn't get this person or this person.
Mm.
I don't know. I'm very protective of the show, and so I would just want to make sure that it's I don't know. If One Tree Hill's coming back, everyone should be there. Is my point. So I don't know if that answers it, but yeah, I'm very very curious. I don't know anything about it other than what you guys have seen. I don't know. I don't even know the storylines. So.
Well, it's exciting. Yeah, we're so excited to see what happens there, and we're so close to rounding off our podcast that it's like perfect to be able to continue it, a bit further. But just we have to just say, I mean, thank you on so many multiple levels. I mean, thank you for your time. Thank you for all of your insight and stories. It's so interesting. And thank you for all of your work on a show that is so beloved by us, by all of our listeners. And then continuing the work. I mean, Motorheads, it's so good. I mean, I'm really enjoying it. I can't wait to continue with it. And for any One Tree Hill fan, this is an absolute easy win. Like this is like made for you. But also beyond that, for people that aren't with One Tree Hill isn't really your thing. This has really got something for everybody. And it's great, and we just hope for the continued success of it and to see more. But yeah, so thank you so much for all of that.
Thank you. This has been really fun. It was like a little like trip down memory lane it was fun to do. But I appreciate it. I appreciate you saying the nice things about the show too. And if we are lucky to get a season 2, you guys absolutely can be background on Motorheads in Toronto.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're there.
Cheers.
I
Yeah.
I'll tell you an incredibly very quick story. Okay, is that
Yeah.
so? My wife and I used to work at a college here, local where we work, where we live, and there was the Simon Pegg movie, The World's End. I'm not sure if you're familiar with
Of
it.
course I am. Yeah, I love it.
Right, well, that was filmed in our local town, and my wife was helping. They wanted to use the college campus for some of the filming, and my wife was like the coordinator person with the I don't know who it would be, the person that was responsible for like the sets and whatever.
Locations. Yeah.
Locations, that's it. Yeah, thank you. And they said to my wife, "Oh, you should come and be a background performer in it. Like, that'd be great." And she was like, "Oh, amazing. My husband is obsessed with like movies and TV. Is it possible could he be in it too?" And they were like, "Yeah, of course. All you need to do is come and do an audition, which is just you just have to walk in diagonally, because yeah, you can see where this is going, because you had to be like they're like kind of like zombies or something, weren't they, in it?
Like
And
aliens, yeah. Like weird aliens, aren't
they're like aliens, that's it, yeah, thank you. And so we go to this like cool set audition thing, and all you got to do is walk in a straight line, and there's like loads of us and we all walk, and my wife gets it and I didn't get it because I obviously couldn't walk properly in the straight line, and I
they?
was so devastated. And so my wife is in it, which is great, and it's like we love it. I like freeze frame it on her all the time, and like there she is in the film, but I didn't get to have my moment. And so, and Dom's been it was a background performer in a Ewan McGregor movie. What movie was it, Dom?
Yeah, it was a film called Incendiary with Ewan McGregor and Michelle Williams, and Michelle Williams nearly pushed me in front of a train.
Oh, oh,
But
you were featured. You were featured.
not in the film. This was when
Oh,
we cut and,
oh, when we
and we're resetting, and we were on a train platform locally, and I was just walk. I was. We have like a yellow line. Don't cross the yellow line if there's a train coming. But I thought I don't want to walk into Michelle Williams, so I'm going to cross. I crossed the line, but then she was sort of not really watching where she was going, and she bumped into me, and I sort of stumbled, and she was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." It's like, "No, no, no, you're fine, you're fine. I'm sorry." She's like, "No, no, I'm really sorry." It's fine, we're fine. The train didn't kill me. I'm okay. Let's go back to where we were.
it makes a better story, even though you almost got hit by a train.
Yeah. But yeah, it was good. It was a good time.
I love it, and I'm sorry you weren't in the movie. That's one of my favorite movies. I love all of Wright's movies, but that one is really fun. And you live in that town. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that little town. I feel like it's so charming, and I don't know.
Well, that's why they wanted to film it here, because so it's called Welland Garden City where we live, and they say it's like a local newspaper coined the phrase of it. It's a suburban utopia, but nothing happens. Like, it's a very boring place to live, and that's why they chose it, was because it needed to be sort of like Pleasantville, but
Yeah.
but it's very boring. But it's nice and safe, like for our kids and everything. But yes, I mean, Dom almost died being a background performer. I haven't quite got there, so we're desperate to put it right. So I mean, yeah, if like touch wood, when season 2 gets greenlit, we'll be on the first thing smoking to Toronto. We would.
I'm serious. We won't have you walk because apparently you can't. And then Dom, if you want, we can have someone push you on camera, and then we can make the Michelle Williams moment work on camera. So we can make it all. We can all make it all happen. And we can do a late night during a race. We can put it in the bar. Whatever works best for you guys. But we should absolutely make that happen if we are lucky to get to do more.
Touch wood. Would love that. So great. So great. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for everything. We'll let you go and end the podcast here. But yeah, thank you. And there we go.